Hey, it's Matt, your average gamer, and for this video, we're going to be going over 9 more broken builds to try in Elden Ring. These are a lot of fun too. We're going to start out with a build for Hoarah Loux. This is an absolutely awesome one that can shred too. Recently, I did a bunch of builds for the bosses and whatnot in the game. Probably going to do more of them and cover more of the bosses. I really want to get to the Hand of Melania. Again, a nice Melania build would be cool. I didn't get a chance to do this one as a phase 2 for my Godfrey build. This is amazing, honestly, because it fits his moveset with the Beast Claws, and you could set yourself up for a very powerful Hoarah Loux build. Sometimes playing these games is all about how much fun you can have, and if you could do a lot of damage while having a ton of fun too, then more power to you, honestly, because the game is going to be that much more enjoyable. I know a lot of people are looking for fun builds. I highly recommend this one. It does a lot of damage too. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. For equipment, we have the Heavy Beast Claws plus 25. Of course, we're using Bloodflay Blade with them. We have the Dragon Communion Seal. We are using part of the Elden Lord set to fit the Hoarah Loux build. Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Ritual Sword Talisman, Millicent's Prosthesis. We have the Shard of Alexander, Thorny Tier, and Faith Tier 2. Let's jump right into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, we have 30 Endurance, we have 66 Strength, we have 23 Dexterity, a little bit over on the Dexterity. I think I was using that for another build, so you only need the minimum requirements there. 25 Faith with the Faith here, and then we're using Golden Vow, Flame Grant Me Strength, and Blood Flame Blade. And the next one up is probably the least broken one on this list, but it does really great damage, and honestly, it might be my favorite one on the list. And this is going to use the Great Katana with Electrify Armament, and then we're going to be using Lightning Spear in combination too. This is actually, by the way, with Electrify Armament, going to give us around 800 AR for the Great Katana. This is also what's known as a hybrid build because you're going to be investing in strength, two-handing for the extra bonus with your strength stat when you have the Great Katana at heavy affinity, and then using Electrify Armament, which is faith-based. So this is a strength and faith build that could do a lot of lightning damage. By the way, curious, post your thoughts below. What is your favorite hybrid build in Elden Ring? What is your favorite mix of two different damage types, essentially, that you like to combine together? For me, it's Faith and Strength because it's very powerful and versatile. I'm curious as to your thoughts. And this is a good-looking build, too. I love the lightning on the Great Katana. It looks really cool looking at that. And then, of course, you could throw in any lightning incantations would fit with this build. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And we have the Heavy Great Katana plus 25. Of course, we're using Electrify Armament with that. We have the Gravel Stone Seal as well, part of the Rakshasa set, and Solitude Pants for a little bit extra defense. Millicent's Prosthesis, Lightning Scorpion Charm, Rolana's Cameo, of course, Shard of Alexander. We have the Lightning Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 28 Endurance, 36 Strength. That's going to be 54 when you two-hand this. We have 20 Dexterity, 50 Faith, of course. I believe with the Faith tier, that's going to be 60. We're using Golden Vow, Halash Shabiri, Knight's Lightning Spear, and Electrify Armament. And next up here, we have a build for the Zweihander. This is a weapon that a lot of people told me to cover because I guess I haven't used this weapon in a long time, and a lot of people like it. This is a high damage build that's built around Royal Knight's Resolve and getting a lot of Pierce damage, which is a great damage type in Elden Ring. If you're ever struggling with some of the difficult bosses in the game, always switch to Pierce damage because a lot of the bosses are going to be weak or neutral to Pierce damage. It really is an excellent damage type, and of course we're getting that with our charged attacks. As you saw, the first hit, by the way, did 10,000 damage, so you're going to get a lot of damage out of a build like this one. Honestly, I really like this weapon. I love that it has pierced on the charged attacks. They do have a long wind-up time. The swing on it is a pretty long wind-up, but you're going to get a lot of damage out of it. It's worth it in the end. After all, it is a colossal weapon. It also is a weird scaling weapon. If you're at a really high level, it does really well in quality, but since I'm at 150, I went for heavy affinity. That way I can get the two-handed bonus. Yeah, if you're a little bit constrained on stats, heavy affinity is great because of that two-handed bonus. So you get to 60 and you have 90 strength. You get to 66, you'd have 99 strength, etc. You always have that ability to two-hand the weapon, get the 1.5 times bonus, and that's what I went for here and got a lot of damage out of this build. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know for an awesome Zweihander build that could do a lot of damage. And we have the heavy Zweihander plus 24, preferably plus 25. Any seal for buffs. We have part of the Rakshasa set on the veteran chest piece for some extra defense. Ritual Swords Talisman, Axe Talisman, Two-Handed Sword Talisman, Dagger Talisman in case you get any critical breaks, Spike Crack tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 35 Endurance. We have 66 Strength. That's going to be 99 when you two-hand this, 14 Dexterity. We have 25 Faith with the Faith tier. And of course, for our buffs, we're going to be using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. Next one up here is a personal favorite, and that's going to be the Backhand Blades with Blood Blade. This is an epic build in terms of damage. It's an alternative to Jump Attack Bleed. You're going to have an incredibly fast weapon and an Ash of War that could build up bleed incredibly quickly. And the backhand blades are a really fun weapon to use too. So if you're looking again for an enjoyable weapon that could do a lot of damage, this is definitely going to be a build and setup for you. You can see the damage we stacked there, 21,000 is pretty incredible. It's pretty weak to bleed overall, but this with Bloodblade is great. And then you could switch to those fast attacks, get a lot of bleed build up with the backhand blades. Ultimately an impressive weapon and one of my favorite and most fun Ashes of War to go with it. Second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know for this build. And for equipment, we have the Blood Backhand Blades, plus 25 preferably. We're using the Dragon Communion Seal. We have the White Mask, part of the Rakshasa set, and the Solitude chest piece on. We have Shard of Alexander, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Melissen's Prosthesis, Wingsword Insignia, or Rotten Wingsword Insignia if you have it, Thorny tier, Faith tier, and then we're using Moog Shackle there too. Let's jump right into stats. And we have 60 Vigor, 18 Mind, 30 Endurance. We have 12 Strength, 45 Dexterity with Melissen's Prosthesis. We also have 45 Arcane, so we hit the soft cap for bleed there. 25 Faith with the Faith tier. We got a good amount of poise with this build, and we're using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. And next up here, we have a Fire Jump build with the Godskin Peelers. This is a really cool one. Ultimately, you could use the Ash of War to get a lot of damage too. But of course, this takes advantage of the new Ash of Wars that you have in the DLC, the two Flame Spear and Flame Skewer that will give you extra fire damage. And then you could turn that into jump attack damage for an awesome looking and powerful fire build. It's actually one that I use pretty frequently. I've done different versions of this with the Bandit Curve Swords and whatnot, but I love putting this on the Godskin Peelers too because they get a lot of damage. I think we're going to have around 700 AR on each with the extra fire damage, which is pretty incredible. And you have the versatility of a Faith build, which is awesome. This is one, especially for bosses that are weak to fire, where you're absolutely going to shred. We're going to jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know for this fire build. And for equipment on this one, we're going to have two Flame Art Godskin Peelers, both with Flame Spear on them. We have the Erdtree Seal. You can check out the armor set there. The Grave Bird set is great here for the jump attack damage. Fire Scorpion Charm, Wingsword Insignia, Melissen's Prosthesis, Shard of Alexander, but if you're not using the Ash, switch that to the Claw Talisman, Thorny tier, Flame tier. Let's jump right into stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 22 Mind, 30 Endurance, 17 Strength, 27 Dexterity. We have 60 Faith, so it's going to give you a decent amount of Faith. You could do a lot if you want to add in different incantations and whatnot. We hit 58 Poise, and for our buffs, we're going to be using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. And next up here, we have the Spinning Katana build. This is an amazing one. The fact that you could put Spinning Weapon on the Great Katana is ridiculous. You add in Bloodflame Blade, you put it in Heavy Affinity with around 700 AR, and honestly, you're going to get an insane amount of damage, bleed build up, and a really great build overall. Yeah, this is one you're going to love if you're looking for a bleed build up and physical damage. It's really great. I like the fact that you could switch any innate bleed weapon. You could switch to heavy affinity, get the two-handed bonus, throw on Bloodflame Blade, and still get a good amount of bleed build up without the physical damage reduction that you get from Blood Affinity. By the way, this is all on Journey 3. All the footage here is on New Game Plus 2, Journey 3 for all footage in this video. We took on some DLC bosses, some regular bosses and whatnot, mixed everything up. Ultimately, I really like this build. This is really good for stacking damage. Definitely worth trying out if you're having a difficult time with any of the bosses in the game, especially if they're weak to bleed. Let's jump into equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And we have the Great Katana plus 25 with Spinning Weapon on it. We're using Bloodflame Blade. We have the Dragon Communion Seal, White Mask. You check out the armor set there. Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Ritual Swords Talisman, Melissen's Prosthesis. We have the Shard of Alexander, Thorny tier, Faith tier 2. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this one, we have 60 vigor, 21 mind, 30 endurance, 66 strength. It's going to be 99 when you two-hand this. That won't work with the Astro. I don't think you get the two-handed bonus there. 23 dexterity, but ultimately for any regular hits, you will get a lot of damage. Probably around 700 AR. 25 faith with the faith tier, golden vow, flame grip and strength, and blood flame blade. And the next one up here, we have a Redmane build. This uses a backup weapon with Flame of the Redmanes on Fraser's Greatsword, so you get that Redmane damage bonus. And then for your main hand, you're going to be using Guts Greatsword in Fire Affinity with Savage Lion's Claw. Makes for an excellent and fiery combination. I love this, honestly. A couple people asked me for a Redmane build and setup. This is a good one because you could switch to Fraser's Greatsword, give yourself a little bit of range with Flame of the Redmanes. Not the best Astrovore in the game, but it has basically a mid-range. And then switch back to Savage Lion's Claw for your big damage. And if you land it all, it's going to be around 10,000 damage. By the way, if you want to see more cosplay builds or theme builds, be sure to comment which ones you want to see below, because coming up soon in the coming weeks, I'm going to do another theme build setup for Elden Ring that should be really fun, some cosplay builds and whatnot. I'm also going to do a video for the blood-sucking crack tier. It's going to be a low health proccing because I don't like it for a lot of builds, but I love it for the low health proccing stuff. It's going to be one of those build videos, setups, not necessarily one-shots, but big damage, going for an extreme amount of damage and a little bit of low HP. I'm looking forward to that one. I know I haven't covered that tier that much, but ultimately for me, because you lose so much HP with it and you kind of have to balance it off, it's kind of difficult to use for a lot of builds. But for the low health proccing stuff or the high damage stuff, I'm looking forward to covering that one. All right, we got Flame of the Redmanes on Fraser's Greatsword, Savage Lion's Claw on Guts Greatsword. Excellent combination here. In a second here, we're going to go over equipment, stats, everything you need to know. And for equipment, we have Guts Greatsword plus 25 Fire Affinity with Savage Lion's Claw. We have Fraser's Greatsword, Fire Affinity, Flame of the Redmanes. We have any seal for buffs. You can check out the armor set there. Shard of Alexander, Fire Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Arsenal Charm +1, or Great Jar's Arsenal if you have it. Flame tier, Faith tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 35 Endurance, 66 Strength. If you two-hand anything, of course, once again, you'll have your 99 Strength, 14 Dexterity, 25 Faith with the Faith tier. We hit 51 Poise, and we're using Golden Vow and Flame Grip Strength. All right, we got two more builds to go, and the next one's going to be a heal and cast build. This is a great combination build that could take on DLC. If you're in DLC and you're against any of the bosses that are weak to Holy, this is going to be a pretty good one ultimately. This is going to use Prayerful Strike, but it's going to be a caster's build too, with multi-layered Ring of Light being your main incantation. You could heal back HP, get in some poise damage with the Great Stars and Prayerful Strike, and switch to multi-layered Ring of Light for some serious range damage. I love how much range multi-layered Ring of Light has, and the fact that it's chargeable too makes it excellent. You could also throw it out relatively quick too, and ultimately it makes for a solid combination build because Prayerful Strike is very reliable to begin with because you get so much HP back. Adding the Great Stars, couple extra percentage points of HP you'll gain with that too, making for a powerful Faith build. By the way, I've been covering some other games too. I did an early game build guide for Dark Souls 3. I'll leave that in the description below. If you've never checked out Dark Souls 3 and you're playing Elden Ring, by the way, it's a phenomenal game. I also went over my thoughts on the Monster Hunter beta too. I thought it was excellent for Wilds. Really cool open world RPG. I'm looking forward to that one. I'll leave that in the description below. Ship it equipment. And we have the Sacred Great Stars plus 25 preferred. We have the Erdtree Seal. We have the full Rakshasa set on for this one. We have the Godfrey Icon. We have the Sacred Scorpion Charm, Ritual Swords Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Holy Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump right into stats. And stats on this one, we have 60 Vigor, 21 Mind, 26 Endurance. We have 22 Strength, 12 Dexterity. We have 80 Faith with the Faith tier, so we got a lot of Faith for this build. Any incantations you want to add, you can add. We hit 58 Poise with the Rakshasa set, Golden Vow, Hellish Shabiri, and multi-layered Ring of Light. All right, the last one on this list is going to be a dual Seppuku Bonk build, and this is going to use Fraser's Greatsword for both of them. Has a lot of bleed build up on this weapon, by the way. 130 something on each with 45 Arcane. Add in Seppuku on each one, and you end up with a really powerful jump attack Bonk build that could do a lot of bleed build up as well with the curved Greatswords. Honestly, think these are excellent with Seppuku. They really aren't the most amazing weapons overall. There are better weapons to use, things like Lion's Claw, but for jump attack damage and whatnot, I like these with Seppuku. You'll get a lot of damage out of this one. Let's jump into equipment and stats. And there's the dual moveset there. Honestly, it's pretty awesome. Just showing that off real quick. All right, now it's time for equipment. We have two of Frasia's Greatsword in Blood Affinity for both with Seppuku. We're using the Dragon Communion Seal. We have the Gravebird Armor Set and White Mask for the extra damage. Lord of Blood's Exaltation. We have the Claw Talisman, Ritual Swords Talisman, Arsenal Charm +1 or Great Jar's Arsenal, Green Burst Crystal Tier, Faith Tier. Let's jump into stats. And for stats on this build, we have 60 Vigor, 14 Mind, 32 Endurance. You're going to want a lot of Endurance for this build. We have 40 Strength. If you do two-hand anything, you'll have 60, 14 Dexterity, 25 Faith with the Fates here. We had 45 Arcane for that Bleed soft cap. We have 54 Poise with this build, and we're using Golden Vow and Flame Brimmy Strength. And thanks for watching this one. These are a little bit more optimized than the builds I've done lately, so they're going to give you good damage. They're going to be reliable. Yeah, some of them are a little bit more on the boring side. I tried to make them fun, but again, they're more optimized builds that are going to be more focused on getting you damage and taking down bosses. By the way, my hand is getting better. I'm back to being able to game as long as I take breaks. Another 3 to 4 weeks, I'll be fully healed. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to doing some cosplay builds in the Bloodsucking Crack Tier 1. I'll catch you guys in the next video.